Um, wonder why that didn't loop. All right, let me turn that off. And I am live. Hey everybody, it's Justin. Welcome to my house. I don't think there's anybody out there. Well, I got two people on LinkedIn. Hey guys, whoever you are, nice to have you. It is Wednesday, June 4th, and sorry, I just realized my Teams window showed there at the end of the song. That was not intentional, but someone sent a message, and I thought the thing was going to loop, but it didn't. But anyways, so I missed last week. Apologize if anybody came and tried to watch. I had some personal matters to attend to and wasn't able to stream last week, but I'm here this week, and it's now June of 2025. And I put this in my LinkedIn post earlier when I posted it, but I have two customers right now. One where we're kind of wrapping up policy and compliance, mostly policy management, which is what we're going to focus on today. And my other customer, we're kind of in the story writing um, requirements gathering phase of policy management in ServiceNow. So I was like, you know what? I don't have anything super planned, but I know this policy stuff kind of in and out. So why not do a live stream or a demo on what exactly policy management is in ServiceNow? So if let's actually do I like to start with a little bit of explanation. I might actually have. I'm not sure what PowerPoint's going to pop up if I hit this. So I better not hit that. So policy management lives in governance, risk, and compliance. You might also hear it referred to as integrated risk management within ServiceNow. And if I look over here, just behind my head, I've got policy and compliance management. But you have other things like risk, audit, BCM or business continuity, compliance case management. If you want to like take requests and cases from people related to compliance, like think about um, I saw Justin, bribe somebody, and I want to report that or something like that, like an ethics hotline. Might be something you do in compliance case management. Then there's the continuous authorization and monitoring, operational resilience, privacy management, reg change management, risk management, third-party risk management, which also includes fourth-party risk management, and then some common GRC features. We skipped over one of them. Oh, the smart assessment engine. We've actually already done a live stream on smart assessments, so don't need to hit on that. But if you're interested in how excited I am about smart assessments, you should definitely check that out. All right. So policy and compliance management, we're not going to implement it, but I did want to. I was hoping there was like a summary. Uh, yeah. Okay. So basically, with policy and compliance management, you get a process to create policies and controls. Now, my customer, actually, yeah, my first customer that we're almost live with, they're not doing the control side of things yet. They will eventually. They're just not there yet. They're not ready for it. So they'll be looking at um, just the policy authoring and policy lifecycle within ServiceNow, and not so much the tracking of control objectives and controls and mapping those back to authority documents and citations and such. But what else here? We got control risk exposure by continuously monitoring, reduce manual burden and cost through automation, and then let's see, acknowledgments. I don't see that in here, but there is like, so you've got the life cycle of a policy, and then you've got the, like once a year, you want everybody to acknowledge that they've read the policy and they're going to comply with the policy, stuff like that. You probably do this at your organization anyways. You can do that within ServiceNow too. Um, yeah, so that is the kind of high level summary. Oh, here's a great graphic where you can see where policy management kind of lives in the GRC stack. This being this square here being actually I guess these two being GRC. You do have SecOps over here on the left hand side. Basically, security incidents and vulnerabilities, those are risks to the organization, and so then you can have policies around mitigating those risks, getting exceptions for things like vulnerability response in the compliance management or policy management. So you may have a policy that says, I don't know, data retention or password complexity or anything else, right? About how your data is governed within your environment. And depending on the application, you may not be able to put in a patch, or you may not be able to comply because of limitations in the application or limitations in the software. So policy management includes an exception handling where there's a process around getting exceptions to not complying with the policy. So we'll try to cover that too in the live stream. So that's just a kind of intro to policy management via Justin, via Justin's house. And so we're just going to jump right in. So you manage or you work with the policy management application within the compliance workspace. So in the compliance workspace, you've got uh, your controls and your authority documents, as like I was talking about earlier, which is what's showing right up on the screen. So think of an authority document like NIST or ISO 27001 or SOX if you're in finance, Sarbanes-Oxley. They're usually some kind of legislative body has issued some, legislation, right? Something that you have to comply with. That's the authority document. And so we store those. And actually, here's a good example: the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, which has been deprecated. So that's the document that contains all the rules and the regulations. The text of that document, those are considered citations in ServiceNow. So we break down each citation into manageable bytes. And then if we scroll down further here, we use policies in ServiceNow to map to those. So you might have an information security policy or a privacy policy or a data management policy. And those might map back to via control objectives to an authority document. A control objective is your internal control objective, your internal objective around how you are going to control a process or an asset. And you can test those controls and see if they're passing and failing. And so control objectives are kind of your internal, like we're going to be, our objective is to maintain, secure data centers or secure applications. And so that might be a control objective. We'll get into that in a little bit here too. But so this little graphic on the landing page just shows us what policies are compliant or not compliant. We know they're not compliant through things like controls, control testing, or attestations. Maybe we're not fancy enough to do like actual automated controls, and we might, send out something for someone to attest whether they are compliant or not and provide evidence that they're compliant. And so we would map that all back to a policy. So this graphic's basically just showing us here we have one policy that's not compliant and 11 policies that are published and compliant. Oh, this is the topic I hate talking about. So in the governance, risk, and compliance application, there is the concept of entities. And this graphic is showing what entities are compliant or not compliant. And how will I summarize entities? Entities are really just anything that a policy or a control objective or even a risk might apply to. So you can see some examples there: the employee management system, the entire country of, not country, the entire continent of South America. They could be departments, like you see accounts receivable below. It could be a business process like procurement or financial management or information technology, change management. Those are business processes that could be an entity. It could be an asset, Windows servers, Linux servers, containers within AWS or Azure. I think I'm about to cough. So those are all things that could be entities. When you're setting up these applications, this is probably the hardest part, is defining the entities for the organization that's implementing. And then the policies would then apply to specific entities. So you might have a policy like what we said earlier around password complexity. Well, that might apply to user accounts in Active Directory or in Office 365 that must maintain that. So you would associate the policy with the entity. And that's where entities come in. So let's scroll down a little bit further on this landing page and talk about two more things that we'll dive deeper into in the live stream. And that is the ability to have acknowledgement campaigns. So any policy, you can say, okay, it's the information security policy. We're doing our yearly acknowledgement campaign. You select an audience, you give them a deadline, boom, it sends out notifications and tracks each person, whether they've acknowledged or requested an exception or if they haven't done anything and it's overdue. Then below that, you've got the actual policy exceptions. This is really important because it's one thing to say, okay, there's an exception to the policy. You don't have to, you don't have the ability to configure that in the application you're working in, or You're not able to have a sprinkler system in your building because there's no water in your building, or so. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now. That's okay to have an exception. With ServiceNow, you can manage the workflow for that exception. So from the time that someone requests the exception, someone reviews it, approves it, and sets an expiration on it. That's a key thing, being the expiration of, okay, when are we going to come back and visit this, so that we can stay as compliant as possible with our policies and therefore the regulations or the authority documents for those people who are governing your type of business that you're doing. So I love the fact that these two things exist and don't have to be email driven campaigns or hideous spreadsheets that are being passed around, and having a system for it. So, all right. So that's the high level summary. I gave everybody a chance to join the stream, realize I was talking about policies, and leave. Get the F out of here. I know this is probably not the most exciting topic for a lot of people. But it is something that people are looking for and looking to implement within ServiceNow. Like I said, I've got 2 projects that I'm working on right now, and I'm sure there's more coming. So let's get oriented to this workspace. The only part I didn't cover there in my scroll down was this upper right hand side. It's just a way to get to your tasks really easily from the landing page. Um, but there's actually a whole task management menu over here with this little check mark, which we might get to at some point. But that's the high level landing page for Compliance Workspace, which contains policies. I'm going to jump down to the 3 lines of the list view. Now, you might think what's showing here is a bug. It's not. I'm logged in as an admin on my instance. And so there's 2 different personas. Actually, I think it might be 3. There's manager, user, and admin. So that may be 3. So compliance admin, compliance manager, and compliance user. So 3 different personas. And it looks like the in the UI builder, the variants or whatever, I'm seeing both variants of the list view, and that's why I'm doubling up on these menu items over here. So nothing's wrong. If I were to impersonate the appropriate person, I don't even know what it is in this one. Oh, it might be Mark or Grace Abbott. Let's do that so we have a better view. Adam, Allie, Allison, Bo, Kevin. Who did I say? I've already forgot. Allie. Nope, wasn't Allie. Mark, Grace Abbott. That's who it was, Grace Abbott. So I'm impersonating, for those of you that have never seen ServiceNow before, we have the ability to pretend to be other users when we're logging into the instance so we can see what their experience, right, is like. Everything is role-based access with the platform. And so the experience can differ quite a bit depending on who you are. For example, you may not see as many workspaces depending on what access you have. You may not see certain menu items depending on the roles that are assigned to you in the system. So let's head back over to Compliance Workspace as Grace, see what her experience looks like. Page not found. Well, that's not good. She doesn't have access to, she doesn't have access to any of the compliance libraries. So obviously I should not have logged in as her. Let's just end that. I'll just stay myself. Just know that the doubling up of menu items in the workspace is not a bug. It's a feature. So let's go back to Compliance Workspace. And I covered it at the beginning, but a visual is worth 1,000 words. So let's just cover it one more time. You have authority documents, which are coming from regulating or legislative bodies. Within those authority documents, you have citations. Think like line 6.5.3.2.1a.5c, that level of granularity as you kind of dive into the authority document. Those are citations. Then you have control objectives, which are internal to your organization. What are your objectives around controls? And then those can be mapped to policies. So you can take your way from a policy all the way back up to an authority document and say, this policy supports whatever is in that authority document. ISO 27001, NIST, SOX, GDPR, whatever, privacy regulations there might be. So those would be your policies. And then when you apply a control objective right here to an entity, which is actually, the entities are in the scoping section here. So let's connect those dots. When you apply a control objective to an entity, that will instantiate controls within your system. So that's what controls are. So you have a control for each control objectives and entity. So one to one, get to control. Let me explain a little bit further. Even though this isn't compliance, but it's going to come up when the policies. If you have an entity of Windows Server and you have a control objective of I'm going to make sure the default admin account is disabled on all Windows servers is your policy that you're managing, then for every Windows server, there will be a control associated with it. So Windows Server 1 gets a control about that, default admin account being disabled. Windows Server 2, Windows Server 3, Windows Server 4, they all get a control. Each one of those controls can pass or fail, green or red, compliant or not compliant. And so that gets rolled up, and you can see from if you've got 100 Windows servers and two of them are on Windows Server 2000. I don't even know if that's still around anymore. And for some reason you haven't disabled the admin account, then you are 98% compliant with your control objective um, in your policy to disable that account, because 98 of them have the account disabled, but two don't because they're so old for whatever reason. That's what's going on behind the scenes to kind of show compliance. I hope that makes sense. Every time I explain that, I feel like I get a little bit better at explaining it. It is a bit of a complex topic, not because ServiceNow makes it complex, but this application is really meant to scale up, right? The companies I'm implementing for are not small, but they're not huge. And when you get to an enterprise, policy management framework, you need what might be interpreted as complexity in the application in order to scale and manage all those different stakeholders and all the different things that might go on with managing compliance and policies. So what I've got up on the screen is we're looking at all policies in my demo instance. Yes, my PDI is back. That happened. Was my PDI there last week for the live stream? I think it was back up by last week. So I could have, if I didn't have other stuff going on, I could have been here. But anyways, this is what the list view of the policies look like. This is all configurable. I'm not going to get into workspace particulars. Let's see. Ooh, I got a comment. Let's see. Brother, I pray that your efforts will attract more viewers and consumers very, very soon. God bless. Well, thank you, Ashrith. I appreciate that hopeful message. Yeah, I appreciate that. One day I'll have all the viewers that I need, but everybody I have now is just perfect for me. So I was actually explaining to somebody yesterday, I'm going to get some help managing some things. And I was trying to explain like what my vision is for putting this kind of stuff out there. And it really is to find the intersection of those people that are interested in the same things I am. So you'll see stuff on my channel for like running, gardening. I have some tattoo stuff, random bear videos, nature stuff. And then I've got all this ServiceNow content or other technology, like I'm messing around with OpenAI, which we're actually going to do in this stream. I'm kind of looking, my audience to me is the intersection of all of those things that are interesting to me. And I was trying to explain that to somebody yesterday, but I'm going to open up an existing policy, and then we're going to actually create a policy so you can see kind of what one looks like with some information in it, and not so bare bones, and then one that doesn't have any information in it. In fact, that's a bad one. Let me pick a better one. I think there should be a change management policy here that we usually use in our demos, that has a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so you'll see the menus at the top are kind of lit up with different objects that are associated with the policy. So we'll jump through those. I just wanted you to see something kind of built out. Let's see, Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Are you discussing a live stream where you code during a run? I mean, have I coded during? I haven't coded during a run, but what would be cool? I wonder if I could like run in a particular direction that like spelled out code on the map. So that would be like code running, right? But I don't know. Or if I had a smart assistant like in my glasses or something, I guess technically, I don't know. It's probably coming. I don't know. Maybe if we could stop hearing so much about agents and AI, and do other stuff, maybe I could do that too. But it's good to see you, Joe. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you. Okay, so what I've got on the screen is a policy. Every policy gets a number, auto number, just like anything, many other types of records in ServiceNow, not all other records. We get a name for the policy. This one's change management, and we get to specify a type. Now, I've been using the word policy management, but many of you should be aware that there's things like policies, then there's things like SOPs or standard operating procedures. There's well, let's just pull up the list and stop trying to make it up. Procedures, standards, plans, checklists, frameworks, and templates are the different types that are capable here. And this is important because you could have, in our case, a change policy, but that policy may have specific procedures or specific standards or a checklist that's associated with it that can then be the parent field on those items can then be set to this policy. So you could have a hierarchy of things, and hanging off that policy might be different other types of things like standards. This one is a standard, or did I change it? I must have changed it. I didn't mean to change it. Thought I said policy before. And there's that parent field that I was just referencing. It does have a state field, but it's going to always be disabled unless you change this out of the box because your state is going to be controlled through buttons, or for those of you that are admins, UI actions in the workspace, or just regular old buttons in UI Builder, depending on how you've configured it. So if I edit the policy, it's going to move it to a draft state. If I retire the policy, it's going to move it to a retired state. And it only gets to a published state once I've edited it, drafted it, reviewed it, and sent it for approval. This is out of the box. Then it'll be published for everybody to see. And this one is published. You can specify categories for your policy. Wow, I only have one category in my demo instance. That's amazing. So it's not vulnerability response. So I guess that's why there's no category. But you could add categories. Then you could have a brief description of the policy, maybe just a high level summary, and then you could have the policy text. Right now, you can't edit the policy text because it is published. You need to hit edit policy in order to edit the policy text. There's also another experience for editing it, which we'll get into when I create a new policy. Then you have the assignment fields. Okay, this is where some automation and some funness starts happening. So I've got an owning group and an owner. So think of in my recent implementations, you might have a business unit, maybe information technology or legal department or compliance team. And then so that group might be responsible or own the policy. And then you might have a person, a named person who owns the policy. Out of the box, these are the the owner is required because the owner has special permissions on what can happen with this policy. Then you have contributors to the policy. So these are people that might be reviewing it or adding text and content to it. Then you actually have reviewers. This is an important field because when I send my policy for review, it's going to look at who's in this field and send it to them for review. And then they can come in and send it for approval. Then you have the approval method. So we can say, I want to select certain people, in this case, system administrator, or I want to use an approval rule and I have to select the approval rule that applies. I'm going to keep it simple and do the select approvers, and we'll just leave it as system administrator. Then you have this schedule for when the policy is valid from and valid to. Interestingly enough, on a recent implementation, the customer said, make these fields read-only, and make sure that when it is approved, that sets the valid from date, and then auto set the valid to date for 365 days or 1 year after that valid from date. So basically taking it off the business unit on when that valid from and to happens and automating it so that it's enforced through the approval methodology, which I thought was pretty cool. The policy template, you can specify different types of policy templates. And here I only have an example one. Notice it says example article template. What's going on behind the scenes is your policy actually lives in a ServiceNow knowledge base. So that's why you're seeing the term article, because it's actually a knowledge article template that's being used to apply to your policy. So you get a dedicated knowledge base for governance, risk, and compliance, or whatever you want to name it. You could put this policy in any knowledge base you want, and then that's where it gets its KB number down below. So if you're familiar with knowledge bases in ServiceNow, then policy management isn't too much different, especially the editing part. Well, the editing part, but we're not going to do it in today's live stream. It does get a little bit better than the knowledge base one, but we'll cover that maybe in a future live stream. Then we have the acknowledgement setup. So this would be, remember me talking about the acknowledgement campaigns earlier. This would be for this particular policy. uh, the configuration settings. So is it monthly, is it quarterly, is it semi-annually or annually? When's the first acknowledgement due? How long do they have to respond? Who is the audience, right? Not every policy applies to everybody. So this one, it's just the change managers. And then you have options here around allowing people to decline or request exceptions to the policy. So if you have a policy where it's like, no, if you don't accept that policy, you're fired, you're out of here, you might turn off the allow users to decline policy. I don't know anybody who leaves this on, honestly. Almost every time I'm asked to disable these fields so that people can't find them. Not so much this field, but the decline policy. It's like, no, like you're being paid to do work and you work for me. You're not going to decline the policy, which makes sense to me. The reference material, this would be when someone clicks on their acknowledgement and it takes them to ServiceNow and they're reviewing it. Is there some reference material that relates to what they're viewing? In this case, it's a bad link to ISO 27000 security1security.com. Then the exception setup, you could say how long is the maximum exception days? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 365. And then we can record some comments. And I've got a functional domain. So this would be if I'm kind of keeping policies grouped together, like you can see here, ESG, IT risk and compliance, or privacy. I haven't messed around with this as much, but I'm starting to get some questions from the customer who I'm doing some requirements gathering. But I suspect this is around security. This is around kind of keeping things kind of grouped together. I'm not 100% sure security is involved, but I think if it's not, it might be a mechanism for us to do it. But anyways, okay, that's the basics of a policy. The policy text you saw on the previous screen, we can't edit again because again, this is published, but we do maintain a full policy history. Why isn't there any history? Document table, record. There should have been some history here, but it's demo data. They kind of force things in here. This policy does apply to two entities, critical business services and critical business applications. Hopefully I did a good explanation of what entities are, but let's take a look at critical business applications and just spell that out. Is it going to show me? Yeah, so I've got different entities, different critical business applications that are showing there. And is there a filter? Yeah. So this is what's automatically pulling that in is that business criticality is equal to high on the business application record. So this is the table where business applications are stored in ServiceNow. So business applications have a criticality or business criticality. And so it's filtering and only pulling in the ones that have a criticality of high. And then we can see all those entities. So that is what an entity is in this example. There are 11 control objectives associated with this policy. All of these manage change requests, implement approved changes, establish and maintain a software release policy. All of those are coming from different sources. In this case, the source is UCF, or the Unified Compliance Framework. This is actually a pretty cool topic to talk about. The UCF is a source that is available via subscription, third party, not through ServiceNow. It's basically a consortium of lawyers that maintain a database of all the different regulations that are out there. What's neat about using something like this is you can see there's multiple control objectives all kind of associated with this one change policy. You might have multiple authority documents that say you need to manage changes, and UCF does a good job of managing the behind the scenes mapping so that when you say you're compliant with this particular control objective coming from whatever what's internal, but coming from whatever, if you're compliant with a particular citation, I guess I should say, then you're compliant many times with the other citations that are basically the same thing. So UCF kind of maps all that. So in this case, our policy is associated with control objectives, if you want. It could have child policies. That would be listed here. It does have some approvals. We can see that the system administrator approved it back in 2016. There have been 4 acknowledgement campaigns. They're all closed. But let me show you this one that was completed. You kind of get a summary of how the acknowledgement campaign is going. So this particular one was sent to 9 people, 6 responded, 1 accepted, 1 declined, 1 exempted, and then it gives you the response rates, the acceptance rates, decline rates, exception rates, and all this, et cetera, for this particular policy. Again, Seems like a lot of overhead for maybe a small organization, but just think about the scale of like an international organization that's got offices in many countries, in many states and many cities. This system really scales up really fast, so you can kind of see, okay, we're 33% response rate. Oh, EMEA didn't get the acknowledgement. They weren't set in the audience. We need to get it out there to them too, right? So identifying gaps in your processes. That's what I love about something like this. And then we have an individual record of every single person who came in and either declined, requested an exemption, accepted the policy, or didn't respond, like Jenny and Alejandra here. They are 6 years behind on their responses. They probably don't even work there anymore. So that's the acknowledgement campaign for this one. Like everything in GRC, you can associate an issue with it, anything in GRC. So I could add an existing issue that I'm tracking and monitoring, or I can create a new issue directly here around my policy. I can quickly see all of the policy exceptions that have been granted for this particular policy. So just because the campaign had one or two, we'll track them all over time, all of these policy exemption requests, that's PERs, associated with it. And I guess I could open one of these now so you can see, let's see, created for, there's a whole workflow associated with the exception itself. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. So someone comes in and does some analysis, they do some review, then it's awaiting approval, then it gets approved, and then it gets closed at some point when it's done. And you can see on the details screen, the person who requested this is Beth. She didn't give a reason, but her priority, but she did give a justification. Need exception for implementing emergency change to address a security issue, which is executed without performing a formal risk assessment. And it can say when it's valid from and when it's valid to. So this is expired. And we could do extensions on that and track, and you can report on all this, of course, and have escalations or notifications, and et cetera, et cetera. All right, I got a question so I can stop talking. Certain 591, does an e-signature work with an approval of policies as the workflow? Not out of the box. The approvals are basically a drop down. If you're the person approving, you come in and change the drop down from requested to approved, or you click a link in your email that basically sends an email back to the ServiceNow instance with your approval notes in the email. That's the way it works out of the box. Could you do e-signature? Absolutely. There's e-signature capabilities within the platform, or you can incorporate third-party e-signature applications like DocuSign or Adobe Sign. There are spokes, integration of spokes for both of those applications. And so you could get really fancy with the e-signature capabilities for sure. Welcome back, Certain 591. I recognize your name this time. Cool. So that is, what was this? This was a policy exception. So a couple other things in there. You could have verification approvals. You could be tracking some risks, and those risks have risk assessments associated with them. There's the actual approvals. If you wanted some service level agreements associated with this, you could. And then any content references. I don't actually know what content this is. This looks like authority documents. So these are a list of authority documents. So CIS controls version 8 and 7.1. There's NIST CSF and CSF version 2. And that's all I have. ESG management reporting, CRI, Cyber Risk Institute Accelerator. I didn't know what that one was. Okay, so that's a policy exception. And then what else did I have up here? Exempted controls. So maybe these particular entities aren't able to comply with the change management policy. So there's someone's exempted the controls there. Evidence, someone actually has shared evidence for their change management standard. Let's see if there's actually some evidence attached to it. Details. I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, there's no attachments or anything. It says demo data. But you could have had somebody come in and upload documents that were associated with it. Yeah, there's none here. Okay, that was the evidence. And then what else we got? Information objects. I love me some information objects. In this case, someone's associated, says no one ever. Someone's associated card number and card holder with this particular policy. So let's do a 101 on information objects. Information objects are discrete types of data that you're tracking in your instance. It's many times, it's actually part of the CMDB and a cross between enterprise architecture. The CMDB being where kind of all your assets, your configuration items live, and you can associate information objects with configuration items. So example here, card number and card holder, those are discrete types of data that might be associated with a financial payments application. And so you may want to represent in your CMDB that where are all the places that we have card numbers stored or card holders stored. That could be in databases, that could be in applications, that could be in backups, right? Where you want to make sure that that data is protected and you're being compliant with your policies. So that's what information objects are. Not everybody gets to this point. This is a high maturity uh, exercise, if you will, or a high maturity um, skill. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. We do have evidence. Well, there was nothing. That was the same one. There was no evidence attached to it. Content references. Again, we just discovered that's authority documents. And then cases. We could have cases actually associated with this policy. So maybe someone like, I don't know, on the portal, they were like, submitted a case like, I have a question about the change policy. Does this apply to me if I'm using Jira? Said no one ever. And so maybe someone replied, yes, it even applies if you're using Jira, you have to follow the change policy. And you could associate that case with this policy, I guess. All right, so that is through and through what an existing one looks like. Let's create one from scratch. So we'll go back to our list view here, and we will kill our filter, and I will hit the new button. And we're going to call this, okay, so I had some fun before my run. Hey, that rhymes. I had some fun before my run. Let's get this window. I have lots of windows open. Let's see. I need Chat GPT. Where are you? Come to the surface. Here it is. I asked Chat GPT. I'll show you the prompt I used. You are a compliance manager, and your goal is to protect an organization from unnecessary risk and maintain user and customer satisfaction. Please draft a formal policy for the governance and maintenance of a ServiceNow instance within an organization. Use this document provided by ServiceNow as a reference. And we'll just go ahead and open this up. If you haven't ever seen this document before, you should probably go check it out. This is a nice white paper or ebook, 36 pages long, about how ServiceNow thinks you should govern your instance, right? So it's got a checklist like for implementation and building your governance model, defining your governance policies, building a continuously improving governance, and then all the steps for each of those. And so I basically fed ChatGPT that, and it took 37 seconds. That's insane to me. 37 seconds to create version 1 of a policy document. So let's go ahead and just highlight all of this. Oh, is it going to have that on every? When did it start doing references? Interesting. Is that on every section? Huh. This is I use ChatGPT quite a lot, and I've not noticed the references before. So let's just say, can you provide that as a Word document and exclude the references? I can't spell. It probably doesn't care that I can't spell. And I'll probably run some Python and export to Word. Thinking, come on, ChatGPT. Does this count for the 37 seconds? Is it analyzing? I want to see what it's doing. Oh yeah, it's doing Python like I thought. Creating the Word document. I like to watch it. I learn a little bit every time from watching it think. Sometimes, I don't know if you've done this, I've asked ChatGPT something like, how do I give me a regex expression or regular expression. I guess that's redundant. Give me some regex that finds all quotes inside of a paragraph that has HTML or XML or something like that. And then usually it'll like spit it out and give it to me. I'll be like, now explain that to me. And it'll actually go line by line and explain exactly what the code is doing. I like doing that too. Okay, it did it. It downloaded it or created it. Now I'm downloading it. Let us open it. Let it be opened. There it is. Wow, it looks pretty too. So we've got a purpose, a scope, a framework, roles and responsibilities, guiding principles, policies and standards, change management. Yeah, this looks pretty thorough. It is artificial intelligence though, so you should not just take this and run with it. Um, Let me know if I should post this on my blog now that I've created it, because I'm probably not going to touch this after I do this. But yeah, we got a good policy. So I'm just going to Command A, Command C, copy everything, and then let's go back to where to go? Let's go back to our instance. Let me minimize that so I can see my screens. Minimize that and minimize that. Good. Okay. So back here, we're going to call this ServiceNow governance. It is going to be a policy, and there's going to be no parent. There's only one category for vulnerability, so we're not going to put it there. And let's give. I think that document had a brief. Let's just get the. Let's get this saved. All right. Oh, that's what the owner. I do that every time. Owner is going to be moi, and moi is system administrator, which I can't. I can't do system administrator. Oh, great. Let's do able tutor. Reviewers will be Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to use my go-to. Oh, he's not licensed. How about George? Well, George Washington. How about David? Not David. What was that guy's name? Fred. Fred Luddy? Nope. Okay, let's just pick somebody from the list. Let's just make it able. That would be simpler. We will select approvers and we'll make it able. And that'll make things easier for us as we just do this sample policy here. Let's get rid of that alert. Oh, a valid to date is required. So for that customer where they didn't want this, we had to turn off the rule of making that required. So we'll set the valid to date until next year, next June 4th. I heard somebody leave a comment. I'm almost there. Certain 591 chat is extremely delayed by at least 10 plus minutes. You know, I've heard that complaint before. I don't know what other streamers do. Let's see. There's a setting when I'm setting up the live stream, because you're coming from YouTube, certain 591. There's a setting to where I can actually delay it, and I leave it the default settings. So I don't know if I did something incorrect. Let's see if I can look at my settings. Community moderation, participants. Settings. So the monetization, I thought I turned that off. Create highlight video, add stream marker, share, end stream. Yeah, I don't see any of the settings when I set this up, certain 591. So let me just try to set one up. Make sure. We'll schedule a live stream, reuse settings. Let me bring this over so you can see that's way bigger than I wanted it to be. Okay. So this is, oh, and then his comment is right underneath. So when I'm setting this up, there is, yeah, it's not made for kids. Customization. Okay. Message delay. How long you want participants to wait between sending messages? If I do slow mode, which I don't turn on, I can put 60 seconds or between 1 and 300. And then, yeah, that's the only setting I have. Live chat replay. Anybody can participate. Live reaction. So it must be a YouTube thing, certain 591. I'm sorry. Because I just leave all the settings default. I haven't changed anything. But I have seen, like, I can actually look at my screen and see the live stream and know that it is behind me. Like I'm talking, but it is your comment's still up on the screen that I'm looking at over there. So I hear you. I'm sorry about that. I also use Riverside as my multi-streaming platform, and I know a lot of people use it. I'm not the enterprise version because I can't afford it, but maybe that's it too. Maybe there's something going on with Riverside and YouTube. And then certain 591. I don't know if you have LinkedIn. I've streamed to there too. I need to add. I was going to add Twitch at some point, but I haven't done that yet. So, all right, let's hit save there. I'm mumbling. I'm rambling. Notice, like, okay, so the policy history came up right away on this one. That's what was weird about that one we were looking at earlier. It didn't have any policy history. And I guess what I should say about the policy history is it keeps track of every version of the policy because remember it's using the knowledge base, and what does our knowledge base do? It has versions associated with everything. So when you edit the policy, it creates a new version, and then that version moves through the draft, review, approve, published workflow or life cycle, and then retire life cycle. So you'd have keep track of that and all. So if you wanted to know, like, okay, in June of 2021, did the policy include this language, or did it cover these particular entities or assets? You'll have a record of all that. But let's go ahead and put in our policy text. I've got a WYSIWYG editor here that I can embiggen and take up my whole screen. Embiggen is a word, I think. I make it bigger. And I can edit just like it's a Word document. So let's just have fun here. So this is the best policy ever, exclamation point. And then maybe I want, what can I do here? I can change the font. So maybe this will be policy title. And then maybe I want a bulleted list of not that big. Say 12 point, and this will be objective 1, objective 2, objective 3. And then maybe at some point I want to put a table in here of some stuff, and I don't know, applies to, right? What I'm trying to show is that you can pretty much use this out of the box and get most of the functionality you need. Alternatively, let's delete all that. I can import the policy text from a Word document like we just made using ChatGPT. So let's go ahead and grab that. We'll upload it. And now it has it. And then we'll hit import. And now my policy is imported. And I have the complete policy text already formatted exactly how it was when it came out of ChatGPT. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, what we're not doing in this demo today that maybe I might try to tackle next week, there are two possible integrations with this particular piece right here. One with Google Drive and the second with SharePoint or Office 365, which means you could have a editing experience as if you were using Google Docs or 365 Microsoft Word within your ServiceNow web browser. I don't have either of those turned on, but I have the capability. So maybe that'll be a fun like live stream. Like let's hope we can get this done in an hour or 60 minutes. I did another one of those with my crawler a couple weeks ago, and I'm still working on the crawler. Like I didn't get it done in the live stream. I spent a lot of time on it on the weekends, and it's still not done. My crawler is kind of complicated. Okay, so that's the policy text. So you got three options there. Type it yourself, make ChatGPT do it for you, or make somebody else do it for you. Import it using the import policy text button, or use an integration with Google Drive or SharePoint or 365. I think policy authorizing. So you got OneDrive, Google Drive, and it's three. So OneDrive, Google Drive, and SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint. I wonder why they separate SharePoint from. Oh, policy redlining integration with Microsoft SharePoint is available from Washington, D.C. Features not available on Vancouver. So this is Yokohama, so it should be good. Okay, so there are three options: SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive. That's three live streams right there. I could probably do all. Leave a note in the comments if you want to see a live integration and see me fumble through it. Policy history we talked about. My details. Okay, so let's get back here. So I've got some policy text. I've got the owning group. I've got a schedule kind of. Let's set the schedule to start today and go through June 4th of 2026. I don't care about the template. It's going to live in the knowledge base. And let's go ahead and set up the acknowledgement piece. So we're going to do a monthly acknowledgement because we're mean. And the first acknowledgement is going to be tomorrow, the 5th. We'll allow users to decline. We'll allow them to request exceptions. So you can see what that looks like. We will give them one whole day to respond because we're mean. And then who's our audience? We're going to do all employees are going to get this. We're not going to give any reference material. Let's just say https://www.google.com. Go Google that. And then the maximum exception duration in days will be 1 day because we're mean. 1 day, and then we'll hit save. Got my policy set up. Now, I could come in and associate some control objectives. If I wanted to, I don't think there's anything related to this. Let's see. Align critical information technology resource availability planning with capacity planning. Well, that sounds like that could be related to ServiceNow governance. We'll add that one. Okay, so we got a control objective. We don't have any child policies. I think we're ready to go. And we've only got 11 minutes left. So the first part is we're going to request review. I just noticed my overview thing is missing. Let's go back to here and refresh. And I gotta put it towards the end. Oh, it's right there. Details. Nope. I guess I'm not going to get an overview. Okay, we're going to request review. Remember that Able Tutor is the reviewer, and it's set there. And you can add some people here, I guess, if you want to add some more people. Please review my policy. The misspelling is intentional, of course. Request. Now, this moves into a new state of review. Remember, you cannot control the state. It is controlling the state for you. And we should have, yep, that state should have updated here as well. It is in review. So we could impersonate Able Tutor and come in and do that, but I'm just going to request approval because that will move it to approval requested state. So we'll say, please approve. I wonder if I can put emojis in here. Please. Ha, maybe you can. Yes, it worked. I got an emoji in ServiceNow. Okay, so we did a please approve. And now, now I have to impersonate him, or actually I could probably go here. I'm an admin, so I could probably just go do this myself. Let's see. Yes. So, so person who asked about e-signature earlier, that was certain 591. This is the way approvals work out of the box. So approved or not approved. And then if we were to go look at the email logs, we should see that an email went out to Able Tutor, even though there's no emails coming out, but we should see the logs for him to approve that policy. Watch it make me a liar here. I guess there's not. I must have the notification turned off in my PI. So, and now I'm stuck. All right. Approved. Yeah, I didn't send an approval. We could have configured an approval notification or turn on the out of the box one to let let Able Tutor know he needs to come in and approve it. And then Able Tutor could go, there's like a bunch of different places he could go do his approvals. It could be in the portal, it could be here in the workspace, it could be in the legacy UI, he could do it from his email, he could do it from his mobile device if he wanted. It's ServiceNow, there's like 800 ways to do something. But we're going to do the simple way and stay on the same screen and move this to approved. And what we should see once we do this is the state awaiting approval is going to change to published. And at that point, everything about this policy is going to lock down if it hasn't already. Let's see. Yeah, the policy text is not editable at this point because it's been a requested approval. So let's do it. Let's approve it. Click OK. Bam, we're done. And we should see the state update. There it goes to published. Go back to my details. It is published. And we're good to go. Now we can do an acknowledgement campaign. So you don't do the acknowledgement campaign from your settings here. Come on. This is just the setup piece to do your acknowledgement campaign so that when someone comes in and starts, they don't have to start from scratch. You're kind of just saying this is how it should be. But you go up here to acknowledgement campaign tab, and then you click new. And then from that, you get a number automatically assigned. This should be read-only. I don't know why ServiceNow doesn't make these read-only. You don't want people changing the record numbers. Ask Allison. I think she's mentioned it in our podcast several times. There's the name, then the actual policy that's associated with it. I've got the owner for this campaign. The audience is going to all employees. It's going to be valid from June 5th until, remember, we're mean. We're going to give them 1 day to do it. June 6th, 1 day to respond. And then it's going to reference the policy there. And then we're going to track the result for it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. You can do this and not distribute it, right? It's still in a new state. It's not until you hit this request acknowledgement button that everybody gets blasted with that. Do we have, yeah, we don't even have the records yet of all the people who are in all employees. Let's see if we can preview the audience record here. All employees. The little I button is a preview. All employees has no users and no groups. Okay, let's fix this really quick. Can I add system admin? Is user ID or name? Let's do name. Is system administrator. No, I can't. Okay, we'll have to able tutor. Oh, what? Sorry, I'm just, let me run the filter. Okay. Able. Run. Okay, he's not in there. What the heck? All right, let's kill the filter. Let's just select somebody. Howard Lewis. Okay, we'll add Howard Lewis. Good. I'm glad I caught that before. Not a lot to select from here. Let's just grab some more people. Talia Swan. All right, Justin, you got 5 minutes left. Hurry up. Okay, so that's on our employees audience. Glad I checked that. We're going to request acknowledgement. We should see it go to those two people. Yes, it went to Talia and Harold. Thank goodness I added them. So they can come in now and acknowledge it. So let's impersonate Talia, the first one there. Talia Swan. And if we're lucky, it should redirect her to the portal. Employee Center. Nope, we're going to go to Demo Hub. Interesting. Go away, Demo Hub. And let's try ESC homepage. So Employee Service Center is where I'm headed to with Talia. And there should be a widget for stuff that's assigned to her. Let's go to Risk and Compliance. Nope, I don't see it there. What about my tasks? I didn't plan this part out. Annual goal update. I don't see it there. Okay, this is not working like it should. It used to show here on a widget where you could do like your attestations, your acknowledgements, but I'm not seeing it here. So let's go back to the legacy UI as Talia. Goodness gracious. Where did my menu go? There it is. What the heck? Oh wow, Certain 591 is saying closer to 30 minutes delay on chat response for pop-up. That's insane. I'm so sorry, man. There's no like complaint button I can submit for YouTube, but that is crazy. I apologize. Trying to find where is. There used to be a GRC portal. I don't even see that anymore. I don't even see where she does her acknowledgement. My tasks. Well, this is a fail. Why can't she? She has to acknowledge her policy. Wonder if that sent an email. Email. I really wanted you guys to see that because that is a part that I know you're all familiar with because you probably have to do it at your company. Yeah, there's the email. Please acknowledge ServiceNow governance by June the 5th. Let's preview that email. Should have a link in there, I'm hoping. Wow. So it links to a policy, see down the bottom, a policy acknowledgement instance. If I move my mouse, that'll go away. So it's going to a particular page, no, a particular record. So let's just copy this link and then re-impersonate Talia. And then I'll paste that link in the URL. Oh my God. She doesn't have permission. She's probably not a compliance user. So there's my menu gone again. Where's my menu keep disappearing to? What the heck? Demo Hub, stop it. I don't want you doing that. Okay. All right, let's see. We've got a couple seconds to fix this. Sys_user.list. So headed to the user list. Let's find Talia. And I want to give her the compliance user role, which I think is what's missing, or business user. SN_GRC_. Oh, I'm still impersonating her. She can't give herself rules. That's a feature, not a bug. Now I'm an admin. Search for Talia. Swan. Role. She's got an internal role, but she needs the one to let her acknowledge. Dot business user. There it was. This one right here. That's the one that is not going to take up a license. I just confirmed this like days ago for particular ones. Let's actually now impersonate Talia. Now she has the right role. Let's paste that in again. And we shouldn't get our security constraint. Great. So no security constraints. We've got the acknowledgement screen. She can see that she hasn't responded. She can view the policy document in its entirety. She has the reference material. She can accept or request an exception or decline. Remember, you can turn these off in the acknowledgement settings setup. If I hit accept, it'll be accepted. If I request an exception, she'll have to fill out some information around the exception. And then of course declines is going to track the decline. But I think I hit time for the live stream. So I got through most of it, and I hope this was helpful for you all and seeing how policy management works in ServiceNow. And I think I've been thinking, oh wow, my PDI is taking too long to respond. Go figure. I'm thinking I might be serious about doing the integrations, and maybe as soon as next week. So if you're watching this and you have a preference on which integration to see, SharePoint, OneDrive, or Google Drive, drop a note in the comments. I'll see it. I may not respond right away, but I'll at least see it, and that might help me set up the agenda for next week. But as soon as I stop talking and put on the video, there'll be a QR code that'll show up on one of the screens. That QR code will take you to all my socials, all the places you can find me on the interwebs. And I'm here every Wednesday except for last Wednesday and one a couple weeks ago. But I'm supposed to be every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 1700 UTC for those in the rest of the world. And yeah, always leave a comment if there's something you want to see and you have nowhere to watch it. So appreciate you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for attending. And what my sign off is, don't forget to always be learning. All right, let's cue the video. And we'll put the looping on this time.